The vastness of space stretched endlessly, dotted with stars that seemed to burn like tiny diamonds in the dark. In the far reaches of the Varn Dominion, where their maps ended and the void began, a strange signal flickered across the Dominion's long-range sensors. It was not like anything the Imperial navigators had ever seen before. It didn't match the signature of Varn warships, trade vessels, or even known anomalies in the sector. It was new, unknown, and it was coming closer. Commander Thalos, a tall and stern officer of the Imperial Vanguard, studied the readings from the bridge of the flagship Varn Sentinel. His scaled fingers tapped rhythmically against the control panel. "Report," he said, his voice calm but firm. The sensor officer, a young and nervous creature with luminescent eyes, turned to him. "Commander, the readings are unusual. The warp signature is inconsistent with any recorded species. It does not match Imperial frequencies or any known colony traffic. It appears to have come from deep beyond mapped space." Thalos frowned, his mind racing. The Varn Dominion prided itself on controlling the outer rim. Their borders were secure, their patrols constant. For centuries, no unauthorized vessel had slipped past without detection. And now, here was someone, crossing into Imperial space with no warning. "Alert the High Council," Thalos ordered. "All fleets in this sector are to converge immediately, prepare for inspection, and interrogation if necessary." Across the Dominion, the news spread quickly. The High Council, a gathering of the most powerful lords and scholars of the Empire, convened in emergency. The chamber hummed with tension as the council members debated the meaning of the intruder. Could it be a smuggler fleet? One feathered lord suggested, his voice sharp. "Smugglers don't warp across 3 systems without beacons," countered a plated diplomat. "No, this is something older, something we have not seen before." A shadow of unease passed over the chamber. The Dominion had fought many enemies, from rogue warlords to ancient alien races, but nothing had appeared in their space unannounced for a century. The idea that an unknown species could simply arrive without warning was unsettling. Meanwhile, the unknown vessel emerged from warp. It was unlike any ship the Varn had catalogued. Smaller than a standard war frigate, it lacked the ornamentation and grandiose design typical of Imperial vessels. Its hull was smooth, sleek, and unadorned. Yet despite its apparent simplicity, it radiated a subtle energy field that confounded the Varn sensors. From the bridge of the Sentinel, Thalos activated the communication array. "Identify yourselves," he demanded. "Who enters the space of the Varn Dominion without permission?" For a long moment there was silence. The mysterious ship hovered silently, seemingly observing the massive Imperial vessels arrayed around it. Then, without hesitation, a voice rang out through the universal translator. "This is Captain Aria Holt of the United Terran Fleet," the voice said. It was clear, calm, and surprisingly confident. "We come in peace. We do not seek conflict, but we will defend ourselves if threatened." The council chambers fell silent. "Terran?" one scholar repeated. "What is a Terran? There is no record in our archives of such a species." Thalos narrowed his eyes. "It does not matter what they are. They are in our space, unannounced. We demand that they be investigated. Everything about them is unusual." Captain Aria Holt stood on the bridge of her ship, the ISS Horizon, as the Imperial fleet surrounded her vessel. The humans were far from home, millions of light years from Earth, but Aria had trained her crew for moments like this. She was aware of the power imbalance. The Varn fleets were enormous, each ship armed with weapons capable of obliterating her modest human craft. But she also knew something the Varn did not. Humans were unpredictable, creative, and resilient in ways no machine could measure. "Status?" she asked, keeping her voice steady. "Scanners show multiple hostile ships forming a perimeter," her lieutenant replied. "They're bigger than anything we've seen in this sector." Aria nodded. "Hold formation. Keep shields at 80%. Prepare the communications feed. Let them know who we are, but do not provoke them." She activated the universal translator and sent a calm, concise message to the Dominion vessels. We are humans from the planet Earth. We come with peaceful intentions. We request dialogue, not conflict. The Varn fleet did not respond immediately. Their sensors picked up the transmission, but there was no emotion in their systems. Only curiosity. Only suspicion. The Varn High Council debated the meaning of the human transmission. Some argued that the Terrans might be a long-lost colony, a branch of an ancient species thought extinct. Others feared that this small, fragile-looking species could be the vanguard of an unknown force, one capable of turning the galaxy upside down. Their ship is small. Their technology appears primitive, one lord said. They cannot possibly threaten the Dominion. Yet another council member shook his head. Do not underestimate them. There is something in their signal, a clarity, a calm that is not fear. They are confident, that is dangerous. Confidence in the unknown often precedes greatness. Thalos listened quietly, his instincts telling him the same thing. There was a human courage here, something beyond calculation or strategy. Prepare a delegation, Thalos ordered. We will bring their captain to the Imperial flagship for inspection. We must learn everything about them, and quickly. On board the Horizon, Arya and her crew prepared for their first encounter with the Dominion. The humans were accustomed to danger, to facing odds that seemed impossible. Their vessel, though small, was fast and agile. It carried equipment built not for war but for exploration. Yet human ingenuity had transformed simple tools into remarkable machines capable of surprising even the most advanced civilizations. As the Varn transport beam locked onto their ship, Arya gave her crew one final instruction. Stay calm. Be ready to answer questions. Show them we are capable, but peaceful. That is the message of humanity. We do not seek domination, only understanding. The beam shimmered and pulled the Horizon onto the deck of the Varn Prime, the flagship of the Dominion, a massive station the size of a small moon. The humans were escorted carefully through the corridors of polished metal and holographic displays. They were an odd sight to the Varn officers, small, soft-skinned, and unarmored. Yet they walked with purpose, their heads held high, their eyes meeting those of their observers without fear. When Arya stepped into the grand chamber of the High Council, she was met with hundreds of alien faces, each filled with curiosity, suspicion, and caution. She did not flinch. She did not bow. She simply stood tall, her voice steady as she addressed the council. I am Captain Arya Holt of Earth, she said. We come in peace. We are explorers and learners, seeking knowledge, not conquest, but we will defend ourselves if necessary. A murmur ran through the council. No species had ever spoken to them with such directness and calm. They were used to subjects or conquered races, not visitors who demanded respect through presence alone. One council member, tall and plated, leaned forward. Your words are unusual. Few beings in this sector have the courage to speak so plainly to the High Council. How did your kind reach our space without detection? Arya smiled faintly. We built our own path. We learned to navigate the stars without waiting for permission. We rely on skill, innovation, and determination. The council exchanged glances. There was unease. There was awe. A small species, fragile in appearance, yet fearless in action. As night fell across the Dominion sector, the humans were allowed to remain aboard the station under observation. They were studied, questioned, and measured, but never underestimated. Sensors recorded their ship, their behavior, even their speech patterns. Thalos, observing from his command bridge, thought about what he had seen that day. A species unknown crossing the void, entering the Empire's space without permission, and yet responding not with fear, but with quiet confidence. Something about humanity was different. Something about their presence made the universe feel larger, stranger, and yet more alive. And deep in his mind, Thalos could not shake one thought. These humans are not ordinary. They are something more, something the Dominion has never faced before. Outside, in the silent darkness of space, the Horizon floated like a small, shining jewel, a tiny ship against the vastness of the stars. Yet inside, The humans prepared. They were ready for whatever the Dominion would demand, whatever the galaxy would throw at them. Because humanity did not shrink from the unknown. Humanity met it head-on. And the Dominion would soon learn that courage and ingenuity often come in the smallest, most unexpected forms. The chamber of the Varn High Council was vast, a monumental space filled with light that shimmered off polished metal walls. Holographic displays hovered mid-air, showing star systems, fleet movements, and energy readings. Alien figures of every shape, color, and size filled the seats of the council, their eyes and senses trained on the small human who had just entered their world. Captain Aria Holt stepped forward, her boots echoing softly against the metallic floor. Her posture was calm, dignified, and confident despite the hundreds of eyes upon her. She had crossed millions of light years to reach this moment, and she would not falter. Behind her, the Horizon's crew remained attentive, silent but alert, each understanding the importance of their first real encounter with the Dominion. The council members whispered among themselves. Scaled lords leaned to feathered advisors, plated diplomats tilted their heads at unusual angles, and creatures of forms unknown shifted in quiet curiosity. Humanity had never been seen in the Dominion before, and their presence caused a ripple of tension that stretched across the chamber. Finally, Commander Thalos, standing at the center of the council, broke the silence. His voice was firm and commanding. "Captain Holt, you have entered Imperial space without permission. The Dominion demands to know your purpose. Explain yourselves." Aria met his gaze steadily. "We are explorers from the planet Earth, a world far beyond your charts. Our mission is to learn, to observe, and to reach out to other species. We did not intend to intrude, but our journey brought us to your space. We come in peace and we seek no conflict." One of the council members, a tall figure with translucent skin that revealed shifting inner lights, leaned forward. "Your words are calm, yet your presence is unannounced and uninvited. How did your species achieve travel across such vast distances without detection?" Aria glanced at her crew and then back at the council. "Our technology may appear simple, but it is built on principles your scanners cannot fully detect. Our ships are fast, efficient, and capable of independent navigation. We rely on creativity, adaptation, and the human spirit as much as our engines." The council murmured among themselves. Many of the Varn were used to grand displays of power, huge warships bristling with weapons, fleets that could crush entire planets. Yet here was a small human vessel, unarmed in appearance, commanding attention through confidence alone. "Your species is fragile," one feathered lord said softly. "Yet you do not cower. You speak with the strength of the mighty." Aria smiled faintly. "Strength is not always measured in size or weapons. Sometimes it is measured in courage, in will, and in the determination to face the unknown." Commander Thalos studied her carefully. There was something in her presence that unsettled him. It was not hostility. It was not deception. It was certainty. She was small, but she radiated a quiet command over her crew and her ship. The Dominion had never seen such confidence in a species so physically delicate. The council decided to observe further. They had brought Aria aboard the Varn Prime for interrogation, but they were also scientists at heart. They wanted to understand this human ingenuity. One of the council's leading technologists, a creature with 6 delicate arms and luminous eyes, approached the human's equipment for inspection. "Your vessel," the technologist said, scanning the Horizon systems, "your engines. They defy conventional understanding. You are using principles we thought impossible. It is remarkable," Aria answered calmly. "We call it innovation. Humans adapt and make use of what they have, even when it seems insufficient. That is how we survive, how we thrive." Thalos noted the reaction of the other council members. Awe, unease, perhaps even fear. No species in the Dominion had ever displayed such ingenuity, without extensive training or a long history of conquest. Humanity seemed unshakable. Later, the council questioned Aria about her intentions in more detail. "Why venture into uncharted space?" asked a plated lord, his voice resonating like metal over metal. "Why not remain within your own systems, exploring closer to home?" Aria replied, "Because the universe is vast. Knowledge is endless. If we stay in one place, we stop growing. Our people believe that exploration is a responsibility, not a privilege. To discover, to learn, and to reach out, this is who we are." A murmur of admiration passed through some council members. Even Thalos found himself reconsidering the assumptions he had made about humans. They were not conquerors in the traditional sense. They did not demand dominion or resources. They demanded understanding, yet they were ready to defend themselves if necessary. As the discussion continued, the council introduced another question. Your communications are clear and direct. You do not speak with the subterfuge common among species attempting diplomacy. Why? Arya answered without hesitation. Because we have learned that honesty and clarity save lives. We speak truthfully even when it is difficult. Because deception creates problems that cannot be fixed. Humans value cooperation, and we have found that cooperation starts with trust. Some council members exchanged looks. Trust. Cooperation. These were not words that usually held power in imperial politics. The Dominion had relied on fear, influence, and force for centuries. Yet here was a species advocating for a very different approach. During the questioning, a young lieutenant among the humans noticed subtle readings on the station's energy grid. Captain, sensors detect fluctuations in the sector, she said quietly. Something large, something unusual. Arya paused, her senses alert. Keep monitoring, but do not alert them yet. Let us first see the council's reaction. Sometimes knowledge of unknown danger causes panic, not preparation. The council, meanwhile, discussed the human presence among themselves. Some argued that humans were too fragile to matter. Others cautioned that small size and apparent simplicity often hid extraordinary capabilities. Thalos, as commander, found himself torn. His instincts told him that this species could be dangerous, but not in the way the Empire typically understood danger. They were dangerous because they were unpredictable, creative, and fearless. Observe their behavior closely, he ordered. We must understand them before making any decisions. This is a species unlike any we have catalogued. Do not assume weakness. The humans spent the night aboard Varn Prime. They were allowed freedom to move in specific corridors under supervision, observed closely but not interfered with. For them, it was a test, and they treated it with the same discipline and calm that had guided them across the stars. Arya used the time to brief her crew. Remember who we are, she said quietly. We do not bow, we do not beg, we do not show fear. We observe, we learn, and we demonstrate our worth through our actions. Humanity is defined by courage and ingenuity. Never forget that, her crew nodded. They were young, experienced, and determined. They had faced unknown dangers before. Cosmic storms, asteroid fields, even hostile civilizations. But this was the first time they faced a species that ruled an entire region of space. Yet they remained confident, calm, and ready. Meanwhile, Thalos could not ignore what he saw. Humans were unpredictable. Their technology, while modest, was clever and adaptable. Their communication style was unorthodox but effective. And their courage, remarkable. He realized that this species did not operate under fear or expectation. They were guided by principles, by innovation, and by the unshakable will to survive and thrive. For the first time in his long career, Thalos considered the possibility that the Dominion might not be the most powerful or cunning force in the galaxy. These humans, small, seemingly fragile, yet utterly confident, represented something new, something the Empire had never encountered. As the night deepened, Arya sat quietly in her temporary quarters, gazing out at the stars beyond the station. Millions of light years stretched beyond the Dominion's borders. She thought of Earth, of the journey that had brought humanity to this moment, and of the challenges that awaited. The humans had arrived in Imperial space unannounced, yet they had not acted with hostility. They had met curiosity with honesty, suspicion with calm, and power with courage. That was the essence of humanity, the ability to face the unknown, to adapt, and to grow stronger in the process. And for the Dominion, that small, unexpected presence had already begun to change everything. The vast emptiness of space stretched in every direction, but for Captain Arya Holt and the crew of the ISS Horizon, it was anything but empty. Sensors on the human ship detected the subtle movements of Varn patrols, the delicate shifts of energy fields, and the faint signals of other vessels moving through the sector. They were outnumbered, yet every human aboard the Horizon remained calm. Humanity had always thrived in situations where the odds seemed impossible. Captain, Lieutenant Renner said, pointing to the holographic display, the Varn patrols are adjusting their formation. They are closing in, but their movements are cautious. They haven't attacked yet, but they're testing us. Arya studied the patterns carefully. That's expected, she replied. They want to see how we react, how we respond. Keep shields at full and engines ready. But do not fire unless necessary. We are here to observe, not provoke. Despite her instructions, the humans could feel the tension in the sector. The Dominion's fleets were vast, their warships towering and heavily armed. Each cruiser carried weapons capable of annihilating an entire city. And yet, humanity's small ships, agile and unassuming, held their position without retreat. In the command room of the Varn Sentinel, Commander Thalas watched the human maneuvers closely. He was both fascinated and unsettled. Humans moved differently than any species he had encountered. Their formations were not rigid or mechanical. They were flexible, adaptive, almost alive. He saw them anticipate patterns, respond instantly to changes, and adjust tactics in ways no computer could predict. They are not retreating, Thalas muttered to his aide, and yet they are not attacking. Why? The aide shrugged. Perhaps they are. Fearless, Commander. Or perhaps they understand something we do not. The first incident came without warning. A Varn patrol ship, misreading a sensor signal, fired a warning shot at a small Terran scout. The projectile streaked through the void, a bright line of energy that should have destroyed the fragile vessel in seconds. Instead, the human ship responded with precision. Arya ordered her crew to deploy the Horizon's kinetic mass drivers, weapons designed more for mining operations than for war. Large asteroids captured and modified were hurled at incredible speed toward the Varn cruiser. The resulting impact was devastating. The patrol ship, massive and heavily armored, was shredded in seconds. Debris scattered across the sector, creating a cloud of tumbling wreckage. A shocked silence fell across the Dominion fleets. No species of this size, this appearance, could possibly have destroyed one of their warships so quickly. Yet the humans had done it, not out of aggression but in defense. Thalas leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. They are clever and bold. Do not underestimate them. Arya did not celebrate. She understood the implications of the act. The Varn Dominion would now be fully alert, ready to escalate. Yet she also knew that showing restraint had earned a subtle respect. Humans fought to survive, not to dominate. That distinction mattered in the eyes of the Dominion. Maintain defensive formation, she instructed. Send another transmission. Make it clear. We do not seek war, but we will not kneel. The message reached the Varn fleets echoing across communication channels. We do not seek war, but we will defend ourselves. We are humans and we will stand our ground. Across the Dominion, whispers spread. Some viewed the humans with fear, others with admiration. A small species, physically weaker, had demonstrated a capacity for strategy and courage that few had imagined. Days passed in tense observation. The humans adapted quickly to every challenge, reading the Dominion's patterns and responding with creativity. They used smaller ships to distract enemy sensors, redirected energy flows to confuse the larger warships, and coordinated movements with an elegance that seemed instinctual. Thalas grew increasingly aware of the human advantage. It was not technology, for their engines and weapons were modest compared to Varn warships. It was not numbers, for they were vastly outnumbered. It was ingenuity, the ability to see opportunity where others saw only danger. During one patrol, the Horizon detected an anomaly, a massive energy surge deep in the system. It was unlike any technology Arya had encountered, pulsing with a rhythm that suggested intelligence or at least design. Captain, Lieutenant Renner said, "It's huge. Whatever it is, it's not Dominion. And it's awake or becoming awake." Arya frowned. "Keep scanning. Do not engage yet. Let us gather more information. We cannot afford to provoke what we do not understand." The Varn fleets, meanwhile, remained unaware of the anomaly. Their attention was focused entirely on the humans, whom they considered a potential threat, albeit an unusual one. Thalas called a meeting of the Dominion officers. "This species," he said, "moves with confidence. They are small, but they are strong in ways we do not measure. They are not acting out of fear or greed or ambition. They act from principle and strategy. We must observe them carefully. They are unpredictable." One young council member spoke nervously. "Commander, they could be dangerous. Perhaps they are scouts of a larger force we have not detected." Thalas shook his head. "No, they are alone. But alone does not mean weak. Strength does not always come from numbers or weapons. Sometimes it comes from courage, from creativity, and from the will to survive. Watch them. Learn from them. But do not provoke them unnecessarily. The tension reached a breaking point when a Varn cruiser, misinterpreting human maneuvers as an act of aggression, fired again. This time, the humans responded with a coordinated defensive strike that demonstrated their ingenuity in full. They deployed energy shields in overlapping patterns, redirected small debris to act as obstacles, and maneuvered their ships in ways that seemed chaotic to the Dominion sensors, but perfectly synchronized to the human crew. Within minutes, the cruiser was neutralized without any human casualties. Across the Dominion, alarms spread. The humans were physically smaller, technologically simpler, and yet somehow capable of outmaneuvering their most experienced crews. Thalos realized that humanity's true strength was not visible in their ships or weapons. It was in their thinking, their adaptability, and their courage. These were not traits that could be measured on a sensor or predicted by strategy simulations. Prepare a full report for the High Council, Thalos ordered. This species is extraordinary. They are not to be dismissed lightly. We must understand them fully before deciding how to proceed. That night, Arya held a briefing with her crew. The stars stretched endlessly around them, a backdrop of endless possibilities. We've made our presence known, she said. The Dominion has seen what we are capable of. But strength alone is not enough. We must also show who we are, not just how we fight. Our actions define us as humans. Intelligence, courage, creativity. These are our greatest weapons. Remember that, the crew nodded, inspired. They had faced impossible odds countless times before. But this was the first time they realized the true impact of their presence. They were not just explorers. They were representatives of all humanity, standing unafraid in a galaxy that had never seen their kind. Outside, in the dark expanse of space, the Dominion fleets repositioned cautiously. Their commanders were unsettled. For the first time, they faced an opponent that could not be predicted or measured by conventional means, a species that fought not from ambition, not from conquest, but from principle and pride. And far beyond, in the darkness of the sector, the energy surge pulsed again, larger, stronger, more aware. Neither the humans nor the Dominion fully understood it yet, but both were standing on the edge of a moment that could change the course of the galaxy. For Arya Holt and her crew, one truth remained clear. Humanity did not back down. Humanity adapted. Humanity faced the unknown head-on. And as the stars twinkled in silent approval, the humans prepared for what would come next, ready to spark change in ways the Dominion could not yet imagine. The calm of space shattered suddenly. What had been an endless field of stars and silence now roared with destructive energy. A massive surge erupted from the distant anomaly the humans had detected days earlier. It pulsed with a strange rhythm, a pattern that hinted at intelligence. The sensors aboard the ISS Horizon screamed warnings as the humans realized they were facing something far beyond their understanding. "Captain Holt," Lieutenant Renner shouted, her eyes wide. "Whatever that is, it's active, and it's moving toward us." And the Dominion fleets, Arya's jaw tightened. "All hands, battle stations. Shields to maximum. Engines ready. We do not fire unless necessary, but we must be ready for anything." Across the sector, the Dominion fleet scrambled. The Varn had been watching the humans closely, preparing for what they assumed would be the next stage of human aggression, but no one could have predicted this. The anomaly, an ancient relic of a time before the Dominion, had awoken. War drones, long forgotten and hidden in the void for millennia, surged to life, their weapons firing indiscriminately. "Commander Thalos," a young officer called from the bridge of the Varn Sentinel, "we are under attack. The drones are targeting everyone. The humans, they're not to blame." Thalos's scaled face grew tense. "Focus on defense," he commanded. "This is no human fault, but we must adapt quickly. Alert all fleets. The threat is ancient and uncontrolled." The first wave of drones struck with precision and brutality. Varn cruisers, massive and heavily armed, were shredded in minutes. Energy blasts tore through their hulls, and debris littered the sector like scattered stars. The Dominion had faced enemies before, but nothing this ancient, this relentless, and this indiscriminate. Arya watched the battle unfold, her mind working quickly. "They are not attacking strategically, they attack everything in sight," she said. If we do nothing, both sides will be destroyed. Then we do something, said Renner. We can't let the Dominion lose ships while we hide. Arya nodded. Prepare coordinated defense protocols. Use our ships to shield the Varn vessels and disrupt drone targeting. Humans fight to survive, but we fight to protect life when we can. That is our way. The humans sprang into action. The Horizon's crew had trained for improvisation and adaptability, and now they demonstrated it fully. Smaller human ships darted between Varn cruisers, drawing drone fire while energy deflectors redirected attacks. Mass drivers hurled captured debris at high speed, intercepting drone swarms before they could strike vulnerable vessels. The Varn, initially confused and resistant, soon recognized the humans' strategy. Their ships had long been disciplined and rigid in formation. Humans moved unpredictably but effectively. Slowly, the Dominion fleets adjusted, following the human example. Commander Thalos observed with a mix of disbelief and admiration. They are coordinating the fleet, guiding us, he muttered. A species we underestimated is saving our lives. Even the most skeptical council members could not deny it. The humans' bravery, quick thinking, and ingenuity were unmatched. They had turned what could have been a massacre into a coordinated defense that protected both fleets from total annihilation. Arya spotted a particularly massive drone moving closer, one that dwarfed even the largest Varn cruiser. This one is central, she said. Its destruction could destabilize the swarm. We target it first, but carefully. We cannot risk collateral damage. Using a combination of kinetic strikes and energy pulses, the humans created a distraction, while the Varn capital ships launched precise attacks on the drone. The massive machine shuddered and exploded, but the energy ripple sent smaller drones scattering. Arya quickly ordered her team to capitalize on the disruption, forming a temporary corridor through the swarm for Varn ships to retreat to safer positions. The Dominion fleet followed, guided by humans who had no obligation to help them. Yet the humans acted as if it was instinct. They fought not for glory, not for conquest, but because they valued life, even that of species they had never met before. As the battle continued, Thalos began to understand the full measure of humanity. Humans did not rely solely on technology or strength. They relied on creativity, flexibility, and courage. Their ships were smaller, their weapons less advanced, but their minds were sharper, their instincts quicker, and their determination unwavering. The battle raged for hours. The ancient drones, relentless and destructive, kept pressing forward, but the human-led fleet gradually gained the upper hand. Their coordinated strategy minimized casualties, disrupted drone patterns, and protected the most vulnerable vessels. Arya took a moment to speak to her crew. We are showing them what it means to fight with intelligence and courage. This is what humanity does. We do not simply survive, we adapt. We protect, and we rise to challenges no one else can face. Her crew nodded, energized by her words. The human spirit, the core of their civilization, shone brightly in this moment of cosmic chaos. In the final moments of the conflict, the humans and Varn launched a coordinated strike that disabled the main control hub of the ancient drones. Without its central guidance, the remaining drones fell into disarray, drifting harmlessly into the void. Thalos surveyed the aftermath. Dozens of Varn ships had been damaged, but losses were far less than expected. And standing at the center of it all were the humans, calm, precise, and unbroken. He approached Arya, a rare expression of respect on his scaled features. You could have left us to die. You did not. Why? Arya met his gaze. Because that is what humans do. We fight not just for ourselves, but for life around us. Courage and protection are stronger than fear. You are not our enemies, you were simply caught in a storm. And we help where we can. Thalos considered this. In all his years he had seen war, diplomacy, deceit, and power struggles, but never such a philosophy in action. Humanity was small, fragile, and yet capable of remarkable strength, precisely because they were guided by principle, not by brute force. The surviving Varn council members called an emergency assembly. The humans were summoned once again, this time not as intruders but as saviors. The chamber was filled with a new energy, respect, curiosity, and perhaps a touch of fear. One of the council members spoke first. You are a species unlike any we have known. You entered our space without permission, and yet you saved us. Tell us your intentions. Why do you come to the stars? Arya stepped forward, her voice calm and steady. We come to explore, to learn, and to reach out. We do not seek domination. We do not seek conquest. But we will defend ourselves and those in danger. That is what humans do. That is who we are. A silence fell over the chamber. The council, accustomed to hierarchical displays of power and intimidation, was stunned. Humans had acted without arrogance, without fear, and without the need to dominate. They had changed the outcome of a disaster the Dominion could not have survived alone. Thalas stood behind the council, nodding slowly. This species is extraordinary. They are small yet fearless. Their technology is modest yet effective. Their minds are unparalleled in adaptability and courage. They are unlike anything we have seen. Even the Emperor's advisors began to whisper among themselves. The humans had demonstrated something rare in the galaxy, true ingenuity paired with moral principle. As the humans prepared to return to the horizon, Arya gave her crew one final instruction. We have shown them the strength of humanity, not just our technology. Remember this. Courage, ingenuity, and principle are our greatest weapons. We have made allies today, not through force but through action and heart. The crew carried out her instructions with quiet determination. The sector was still dangerous and the ancient threat was not fully understood. But the humans had proven something to themselves, to the Dominion, and to the galaxy. They could face the unknown and emerge victorious, not through might alone but through intelligence, courage, and principle. Outside, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter. The galaxy was vast, and the humans were just a small part of it. But their presence had already begun to reshape the perception of what a species could achieve. The Dominion had learned an important lesson. Strength is not always measured in size or weapons. Sometimes it is measured in the heart, in ingenuity, and in the courage to face the impossible, and in the quiet of space. The humans prepared for the next challenge, ready to continue proving that they were a species to be respected, not feared. The battle against the ancient drones had ended, but the echoes of that conflict resonated far beyond the sector. The Varn Dominion, once suspicious and wary of the small human fleet, now regarded the humans with a mix of respect, awe, and cautious curiosity. Humanity had not conquered. Humanity had not sought power. They had acted with courage, intelligence, and principle. Commander Thalas stood on the bridge of the Varn Sentinel, watching as the last of the ancient drones drifted into the void. The survivors of the Dominion fleet were battered but intact, largely because of the humans' leadership and quick thinking. For the first time in decades, Thalas felt a sense of humility in the presence of another species. They are extraordinary, Thalas said quietly to his aide. They do not fight for glory. They do not fight for dominion. They fight for principle and for life itself. The aide, still shaken from the battle, nodded. Their action saved us. And yet, Commander, they are small, fragile-looking, and yet fearless. Thalas smiled faintly. Fearless is not the right word. They are determined. That is stronger than fearlessness. That is humanity. The humans were summoned to the Imperial throne world, a place so massive and beautiful it seemed to touch the stars themselves. Millions watched as the ISS Horizon approached the great orbital station. It was the first time a Terran ship had ventured so close to the heart of the Dominion. For the humans it was awe-inspiring, but they remained composed, knowing that their actions, not their presence alone, would define how they were seen. Captain Arya Holt walked through the corridors of the throne world with quiet dignity. Her crew followed closely, observing the alien architecture, the intricate designs of energy conduits, and the immense displays of power. They were strangers here, yet they carried themselves with the same confidence that had seen them through countless trials. In the grand chamber, the humans were met by the Emperor himself. The room was vast, filled with towering lords, scholars, and warriors of every kind. Holographic images of distant star systems rotated slowly in the center, a reminder of the Dominion's vast reach. Yet the human stood small but unshaken. When Arya was asked to speak, she stepped forward, her voice clear and calm. We are humans from the planet Earth. We have traveled far to learn and to explore. We did not come to conquer, to rule, or to subjugate. We came to meet others, to understand and to protect life when we can. That is who we are. The chamber fell silent. Even the Emperor, ancient and accustomed to displays of submission or fear, regarded her carefully. The words were simple, yet they carried weight. They were honest. They were principled. They were human. The Emperor finally spoke, his voice resonating through the chamber. You are unlike any species we have encountered. You entered Imperial space without permission, yet you did not seek advantage or conquest. You acted with courage, intelligence, and morality. Few can claim such strength without weapons, without fleets, without fear. Humanity. Your kind may walk among the stars not as servants but as equals. Arya bowed slightly, acknowledging the honor without arrogance. We will honor that trust, Your Majesty, and we will continue to explore and learn, not to dominate. Humanity believes in cooperation and courage. That is how we navigate the universe. Across the chamber, council members whispered among themselves. This was unprecedented. The humans had not demanded titles, territory, or tribute. They had shown what a species could achieve through intelligence, innovation, and moral principle. Their reputation was growing, not through fear, but through action. Outside the throne world, the galaxy itself seemed to take notice. Across star systems, ships of the Dominion carried stories of the humans' deeds. Merchants, explorers, and soldiers alike shared the tales of the small human ships that had outmaneuvered vast fleets, protected allies, and faced ancient threats without hesitation. In faraway systems, alien races who had only heard rumors of the Dominion now asked the same question: who are the Terrans? And the answer traveled quickly. They are the ones who entered the Empire's space and left their mark on history. In taverns, academies, and council chambers across the galaxy, humans became symbols. They represented courage, creativity, and the potential of life to rise above fear and uncertainty. Other species began to wonder if perhaps the small, unassuming, could be the most formidable of all. Back aboard the Horizon, Arya held a meeting with her crew. The stars outside the viewport stretched endlessly, a reminder of the vast journey ahead. We have done more than survive, she said. We have shown the galaxy who humans are. Not through domination, not through fear, but through principle, courage, and ingenuity. That is our true power. Her crew nodded, proud yet humble. They had faced the Dominion fleets, survived ancient war machines, and earned respect across the stars. But they understood that this was only the beginning. The universe was vast, full of wonders, dangers, and civilizations yet unknown. We must continue to learn, Arya added. We must continue to explore. And we must continue to act as humans, brave, curious, and principled. In the Dominion, Commander Thalos reflected on the events of the past days. The humans had changed his perspective, and perhaps the perspective of the entire Empire. They had demonstrated that strength was not only in size or weaponry, but in courage, intelligence, and the willingness to stand for what is right. They are not like other species, Thalos told a council aide. They are not conquerors, not manipulators. They are humans, and we would do well to remember that. Even among the Varn lords and scholars, the term Terran began to carry new weight. It was no longer just a name for a small unknown species. It was a symbol of what a species could achieve, regardless of size or power, through ingenuity, courage, and principle. As the humans prepared to depart the throne world and continue their journey, the galaxy seemed to open wider before them. Systems that once felt distant and inaccessible now seemed reachable. Species that had seemed distant and alien could now be met with understanding and dialogue. Humanity had not conquered, but they had earned a reputation far greater than conquest could ever provide. The Horizon lifted off, leaving the throne world behind, its engines cutting cleanly through the void. Arya watched the stars, considering the endless possibilities. Humanity had proven itself in this small corner of the galaxy, but the universe was vast and full of challenges yet unknown. Yet Arya was confident. Humanity would face whatever came next, not with arrogance or aggression, but with courage, creativity, and principle. These were the true tools that made them extraordinary, and across the galaxy the name Terran began to echo. In council chambers, among fleets, in marketplaces and academies, beings of every kind whispered the same question: who are the Terrans? And the answer was clear, simple, and unmistakable. They are the ones who entered the Empire's space and left their mark on history. They are humans. They are courageous. They are brilliant. They are a force the galaxy cannot ignore. In that moment, humanity's story had truly begun, not as conquerors, not as subjects, but as equals among the stars. And for the first time in centuries, a small species from a distant, blue planet had proven that courage, ingenuity, and principle could echo louder than fleets or weapons. The stars stretched on, endless and full of promise, and humanity's journey continued. The galaxy had witnessed the first steps of the Terrans, and it would never be the same again.